If you are about to give up on your faith, wait. Don't close this video yet. Maybe you haven't lost your faith. Maybe you're just exhausted. And there is a big difference between no longer believing and being tired of fighting alone. Before you make any decision in the heat of your pain, listen to this carefully, because what you feel today does not define what God is doing behind the scenes. There comes a moment in life when prayer starts to feel like a monologue. You speak, you ask, you cry, and heaven seems silent. No clear answer. No obvious sign. No immediate change. And it is exactly at that point that many people begin to think, is God still with me? But let me ask you something honest. What if the silence is not abandonment? What if it is process? The greatest crisis of faith does not happen when everything goes wrong. It happens when nothing changes. When you remain faithful, but the doors do not open. When you keep praying, but the circumstances stay the same. When you keep believing, but the results do not appear. That is when spiritual exhaustion begins to wear you down from the inside. But there is something almost no one talks about. Faith is not about feeling God's presence all the time. Faith is about remaining even when you feel nothing. And that hurts. Because we like signs, confirmations, strong emotions. We like to feel guided. But spiritual maturity begins when you learn to continue even in the dark. Maybe you are thinking about giving up because life did not become easier after you decided to believe. Maybe it even became harder. And that confused you. Because deep down, you thought faith meant protection from pain. But faith was never a contract of comfort. Faith is trust in the middle of uncertainty. And here is something that can change your perspective. God works on layers you cannot see. While you are looking at what has not happened, He is organizing what is still going to happen. While you cry over what you lost, He is preparing what you are not ready to receive yet. Think about the construction of a building. Before anything beautiful appears, there is excavation. There is noise. There is dust. There is the destruction of what was there before. From the outside, it looks like chaos. But underneath, the foundation is being laid to sustain everything that will come later. And many times, the phase of your life that feels like it is falling apart is actually the phase where God is deepening your foundation. You wanted quick answers. God is forming structure. You wanted immediate relief. God is building endurance. You wanted open doors. God is shaping character. And character takes time. But here is the most important point. Do not confuse delay with denial. Just because it has not happened yet does not mean it will never happen. Just because nothing has changed yet does not mean it never will. God's timing is not absence. It is precision. Maybe you are tired of waiting. Tired of being strong. Tired of believing. Tired of hearing, "It will work out," when everything inside you feels like it cannot take it anymore. And I am not going to offer you empty phrases. I will not minimize your pain. Spiritual exhaustion is real. Doubts are real. Questions are real. But do you know what is also real? The fact that you are still here. If you had completely lost your faith, you would not be listening to this. The simple fact that you are still searching for a word, still looking for a sign, still trying to understand, is already evidence that the flame has not gone out. It may be weak, but it is not dead. And here is a deep truth. The strongest faith is not born on days of victory. It is born on the days you almost gave up but chose to stay. Maybe what is happening is not the end of your faith. Maybe it is the maturation of it. Because there is a difference between faith based on emotion and faith based on conviction. Emotion fluctuates. Conviction remains. You are being invited into a deeper level. A place where you do not depend on feelings to continue. A place where you decide to trust even without immediate proof. But let me open a loop here for you to reflect on. What if this difficult season you want to end so badly is exactly the season preparing the greatest transformation of your life? What if, years from now, you look back and realize you almost walked away from what would become your greatest growth? Many people give up in the last mile. They quit before the harvest. They surrender in winter, not knowing that spring is already being prepared. There is something invisible happening while you wait. Connections are being aligned. People are being positioned. Circumstances are being adjusted. What looks like delay may be protection. What looks like silence may be strategy. And here is something few understand. Sometimes God does not change the situation immediately because He is changing you first. Because if He had given you what you asked for a year ago, maybe you would not have been ready to sustain it. Have you ever thought about that? You pray for growth, but growth requires process. You pray for purpose, but purpose requires preparation. You pray for something bigger, but bigger requires maturity. And maturity almost always comes through pressure. Before you give up on your faith, understand this: your pain is not proof of abandonment. Your exhaustion is not proof of rejection. Your current silence is not proof of God's absence. There is a verse that says all things work together for the good of those who love God. But cooperation does not mean immediate understanding. You do not need to understand everything in order to trust. You need to decide to continue. Maybe today your prayer does not need to be long. Maybe it is as simple as this: God, I do not understand anything right now, but I still choose to trust. Sometimes that small sentence is more powerful than hours of beautiful words. And if you are still here, still breathing, still fighting, still searching, it means your story is not over. And stories that are still being written cannot be judged by the current chapter. You are in a difficult chapter. But difficult chapters are not final endings. Let me ask you something deep. Do you want to give up on your faith? Or do you want to give up on the pain? Because those are different things. Most of the time, what we want to abandon is not God. It is the suffering. And that is human. But abandoning faith does not eliminate pain. It only eliminates hope. And maybe what you need most right now is not a complete answer. Maybe it is just a reason to take one more step. So here it is: take one more step. Just one more. You do not need to decide the rest of your life today. Just do not give up today. Tomorrow you decide again. And the day after that, you decide again. Faith is not sustained by daily grand declarations. It is sustained by small repeated decisions. Today you choose to stay. Tomorrow you choose again. And little by little, without realizing it, you cross the storm. There is a strength being formed inside you that you cannot measure yet. A resilience that is born only in those who remain under pressure. A kind of faith that is not fragile, that does not depend on applause, that does not depend on favorable circumstances. And maybe, just maybe, you are closer than you think to the answer you have been asking for. But you will only discover that if you continue. So before you give up on your faith, listen carefully. Silence is not the end. Delay is not the end. Exhaustion is not the end. Your doubts are not the end. The end only happens when you decide to stop. And you have not stopped. Maybe you are tired. Maybe you are frustrated. Maybe you are confused. But you are still here. And that means there is still something inside you that believes there can be more. Hold on to that. Because sometimes faith is not a shout. It is a whisper. It is not a thunderous certainty. It is a quiet choice. It is not the absence of doubt. It is the decision despite it. And if you continue, one day you will realize that this season that almost made you give up was exactly the season that made you unshakable. But that part of the story is only revealed to those who choose not to leave before the end.